Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is FMA Discussion, episode 310. And tonight, I'm so fortunate to have Paulo Rubio. It's been a while, and we usually have nice chats, and I always love his perspective. And tonight's going to be on Science Lab. In addition, though, we're going to go over functionality in the art. Can you do both? Can you teach both? And all that. And that's another lens we're going to speak on. So I'm really looking forward to this. If you're jumping in, tell us where you're watching from, and smash that like button. And without further ado, let's bring up the social media giant, Paulo Rubio. I couldn't resist. So hey, maybe something. Thank you. I'm so glad you're coming on. But I'm really intrigued. I see your pictures of this metal detecting. And I don't want to get off track here, but I'm really interested in that. Like, what brought this on? And like, two questions: What brought it on? And your best find to date?
Well, wow. Okay. So I mean, I've always wanted a metal detector. I think every dude loves the whole idea of treasure hunting, right?
Yeah.
And then like there's a psychological thing to it. Like every time it beeps, it could be anything. So it's like that moment before, like, I don't know if you folks out there play the slot machines or like roulette or any sort of casino gambling games of chance, but before that finality, right? As those reels are spinning, as that ball is spinning, like you have the world in front of you. It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
And so often, like the outcome is not as pleasurable as the process. So metal detecting does that for me. Every time it beeps, I have some idea about what it's going to be, but I don't know until I dig it up. So it's so, I don't know. It's awesome. So the coolest thing I found was a 1904 Canadian halfpenny from the province of Canada. Yeah, before Canada was like a full-on country. So it's really cool. Like I love it. But also, man, I think I like to share this with everybody. Like I think picking up new hobbies is really important. And because when you pick up something new, right? The learning curve is incredible, and you can see yourself progressing through this new hobby or new craft day by day. Every outing, you're just evolving rapidly, and your sense of curiosity is at such a high level. And I think it's important that we continue to pick up new hobbies, especially as we grow older. And I think Filipino martial arts, being as diverse as it is, it does that for a lot of people, which is really, really cool. I know you're a Calice Illustrissimo guy, but then when you dive into a little bit of PTK, you're like, oh, it's this, and it's just like that newness and that elevated level of like learning is so important to keep like just life fresh and keeps your brain fresh too. So
plus,
metal detecting is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. God forbid if you if you got injured and you couldn't do what you can do at the capacity which you were doing it. It's nice to have something else that you could do to keep you stimulated. You know what I mean? And,
you know what I do, Dean, is like when I swing that metal detector, because I'm not sure if you guys know this, but the metal detector needs to be in motion to detect the.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. So it can't be like static. You can't just keep it static and then it's like beep beep beep. It has to be in motion, right, to be able to pick up the metal composition of whatever's down there. And so like I swing wide and I turn my hips, and so there are moments where I'm like, I'm going to do FMA while I go metal detecting, and it's just like wide sweeps and side steps and female triangles. So I incorporate martial arts into everything I do.
Yeah, I just it's funny. I had to ask you because I was so curious, and some of the pictures of the stuff you found.
And, gold rings, diamond rings, like.
Oh my God! Yeah, the whole wedding.
I think I found something along the lines of like $900 of clad currency.
Wow.
Which is cool, right? Like every other hobby that I've taken up puts me in the deficit. This one,
put you in the rears. Here you are. You're actually
like I play golf, I snowboard, and all of these things cost money every time I do it. But metal detecting, I'm actually
You're actually making
black.
money, man.
Yeah.
So all right, so not I knew that was my fault, as far as the digressing, but folks, yeah, we're gonna get started. So science lab. So where I
Mhm.
want to, and again, thank you for doing this because I'm really looking forward to this. I thought you'd be the perfect person to discuss this because of Boudoir. Your guys grew up there in Canada. So in your opinion, what constitutes a science lab? And in part two, does a science lab generally mean correlation that you're seeking an aspect of functionality or problem solving?
Well, I had a conversation on the thread there with Royce Ramos. And by the way, what's up, Terry, Rob, Gregory,
We
Alan,
got Alan
Paul?
Chambers
Thank you
coming
guys
on
for
next month.
joining. I don't think what I do, and I don't think what a lot of what most people do in the Philippine martial arts is scientific at all. I don't think we adhere to the scientific process. So I think we can be loose. We can be a little bit loose with calling it a science lab. I just like to call it a laboratory. But the scientific process is really, I mean, it's defined, and I don't see anybody in the Filipino martial arts, myself included, really adhering to the scientific process. And I don't think it would actually be healthy in very many ways to be scientific in our approach to the Filipino martial arts. Yeah.
So perhaps it's just a phrase just got coined. I'm just like of a better
Yeah.
catchy phrase or what have you. Like I think I first heard it from, I want to say Burton, but I could be wrong. I think, but generally,
Excuse me.
what it usually means. I'm not saying all across the board, but my interpretation from others and discussion with discussing this with others is that you have a group of folks, depending on the number, and you're generally goal oriented about finding things, solutions that has merit, that comes out with gradual intensity of resistance, so forth and so on.
Sure.
What do you say to that?
And like I said, we can be a little bit loose with using the term science when it comes to our Filipino martial arts exploration. And like I have a good friend of mine, Mark Medeiros, who uses JKD combative sciences, right? So I just want to be very mindful that when I express these opinions, they're my opinions, and it's I don't mean to disparage anybody who chooses to use science, right? But I think you're right. Like when and you are in a process of searching for relative truth and you experiment, I think it's okay to use science. But the thing about the scientific process that sort of is in misalignment with what we do as martial artists, right, is that when, first of all, fights are chaotic, they're unrepeatable, and they're unpredictable, which means we can't control variables to the degree that the scientific process really demands. We can apply the scientific process to certain things, like we can measure velocity and impact and the transference of energy and all of these things, but to do it as a whole is really, really, I think it's an impossibility because we can't control the variables. We
To replicate it exactly.
Yeah, we don't know the conditions, the specific conditions that we're going to face when we find ourselves in a life or death situation, right? We can get close, but not scientific, right? So the scientific method, there's different iterations for it, but first you start with an observation, like you observe the world around you, and then you ask questions. So what is the best interception for a Pakal grip sewing machine stab, right? And then you make observations that this happens frequently, and then so you ask questions, what's the best defense? You do a little bit of research, and then you formulate a hypothesis, right? I think that the best defense for that sewing machine is a perpendicular gross motor hack followed by some semblance of a 2-on-1 control, followed by trauma, takedown, or otherwise some kind of termination. So there's that's sort of like our hypothesis. And then we have to test that hypothesis. And this is kind of where things fall apart, because the variables are hard to control, because the strength of that sewing machine strike is going to vary. The height at which it's going to come from based on the person attacking us is going to vary. It's very hard to control the specific parameters of experimentation, because like we're friends and we seek to lead or progress into successes, whereas scientific process doesn't care either way. It doesn't have an emotional attachment to the outcome. Whereas in fighting, we want the thing that we've invested and learned from, based on the people that we respect and love, our mentors. We want it to work. Sure. And so subconsciously, I think we formulate tests that lead to successes, which I think is the way it should be. But that's not scientific. It isn't scientific at all, right? To have that bias built into the testing processes. And I think this is a difficult thing for a lot of Filipino martial artists, because there's so many amazing things that are involved in the initial acquisition of what we believe ought to work, right? Like our master said, this is going to work. It saved his life, right? He tested it. They tested it. But at the end of the day, because it's fighting and it's us who's going to have to do the fighting, we have to do these tests for ourselves. The results are always going to be the results are always going to vary. And then it's like a part of the scientific process is you have to draw a conclusion and you have to share your results with the public, right? It has to go peer review. So can we really conclude what the best defense is for an underhand stab? I don't think so, because the variables, again, we can't control, and there are far too many. I think we can narrow it down, and I think that's the best that we can do in the Filipino martial arts or combatives is to narrow it down into probabilities. Yeah.
I agree. No, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, as far as, when you're training in your lab, and I like the idea of lab versus science. I think, depending on where you fall in that lens or where you're used to coining it, from your influences, there is a curse of information, even though like you're working this thing under duress, stress inoculation, various people feeding you, what have you, et cetera, and all that. But there's that element of knowing like what you're working on, what the current agenda is. So there is that aspect of, the information. So, but much to your point, I think we can get close to it. And as far as if you see a bunch of camps and they're kind of coming to the same conclusion, I think that's also helpful for determining maybe what is the best route to go. For instance, example, the underhand stab.
Yeah, for sure. And again, there's I find some comfort in knowing that the people who have come before us did these experiments, and they more or less come to the same conclusions. But man, the thing about martial arts, and I have such a deep respect for this, right? It's that no amount of data, no amount of information is going to circumvent the power of personal experience, right? Like if somebody tried to kill me, and then I did like some Aikido, like wrist lock, disarm, and terminated that person, or terminated that threat. Sorry. No wrestler, no one is going to tell me that 2-on-1 is better than the thing that saved my life.
Yeah, at that point in time.
Yes, right? Yes. Because these personal experiences are so compelling, they're so powerful. So here's what ends up happening, Dean. We love our masters, right? Like we love the people who share their knowledge with us, and we attach this almost divine credibility to them. Yeah. When they say this works, and they show you the scars and they tell you the stories, it's very hard to go, well, actually, sir, the probability of that happening, like it's very hard to question.
Yeah. And the loyalty.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously don't want to contradict your instructor, pending how long you've been with them or not been with them. You know what I mean?
And what can you really say? What can you really say to somebody who actually lived through it and tell them
that lived through it? Forget it.
Believe in doesn't work with the highest probability, and they should be teaching something else. Like, how do you even do that without hurting their feelings, or without the conversation kind of like devolving into, eventual shit slinging?
or separation.
Yeah, it's really,
You
really
know,
difficult. It's so
which
difficult.
I'm sure many of the separations
Yeah,
within the arts have resulted
yeah,
probability due to that, you know.
yeah. But the danger, right? The danger that we have to face is that we get into this like postmodernistic philosophy that anything works, that and they work with equal probability, which is not true. It's absolutely not true. So it's tough, man. It's rough. It's
It is, but I think, I think
rough.
like you guys, like referencing what you got going up with your guys up there. I think there's like 8 or 9 of you. Um, like, but you guys, I mean, there are times when you meet on that Wednesday night, you're definitely trying to resolve, definitely problematic issues or ones that you want to improve upon. I mean, you guys are definitely putting a laboratory approach to it. Am I correct?
Yes. No, we are. And it usually comes by way of a question. Somebody will come in and they're like, like Jared would teach some sort of like a gun disarm.
Mm.
And then I'd show it to the guys. And then see, the thing about this laboratory is that it's centralized, but it's also decentralized. Meaning to say each member there has their own group that they go, but wait a minute, right? And I think that's really, really important, that there isn't necessarily a centralized governing body.
Because all those guys teach and they have their own students, right?
Yeah, yeah. So as an example, there's a gun disarm that involves, I'm pointing my gun, they try, and we do this, and we shake it off, and then Mark and his jujitsu and his wrestling crew, they're like, hey, there's a vulnerability during that defense against the gun grab where your back's exposed. So then we go from there. We're like, okay,
Hmm.
and which is kind of strange because we're exploring the vulnerability instead of exploring what works about this disarm or this countermeasure to a disarm. So we explore the vulnerability from specific points. So I artificially point my gun at him. He artificially tries to grab it. I apply the countermeasure, and that's where we begin working from that specific reference point, from that vulnerability. And then it's just question after question after question. It's also dangerous to do that, right? Because a lot of gun disarm techniques, knife disarm techniques, they require speed, surprise, and violence of
Hmm.
action, which are very hard things to replicate in a training environment because we're training it. Where's the surprise? There's no
That's the
surprise.
thing. Like I alluded to before, there's a curse of information. You know what I mean?
I like the way you characterize it, and that's exactly what it is. And this is
Yeah.
something that I want to kind of warn people about. There is a countermeasure, there is a defense, there's a counter to every tactic out there. And when you spend too much time focusing on a microscopic level about why something doesn't work, well, you should discover 10 different ways to counter or to circumvent a tactic. And that's just the nature of things. The problem, right, is especially when people apply the scientific method, is that they examine a technique with the bias to make it fail, number one. And, right,
Good point.
yeah, they want to make that fail because they already have the bias. So they're going to
Yeah.
formulate conditions to make it fail. They're going to make it
Yeah.
very, very compelling. And then they're going to present that conclusion. And that's so dangerous. It's so dangerous to present a conclusion based on a flawed testing model to begin with. So that's why we can't be scientific. We cannot be scientific. We can be honest. We can be detached.
Mm.
So, and that's the thing. That's the thing about the boudoir. We are detached from the outcome. But like I'm no like super martial artist guy, But I like to think that what I add to discussions, and I do this whenever I travel all over the world, when people show me things, I do two things. I provide skepticism, like functional skepticism, and then I help focus it, you know, because sometimes a conversation about why something works or doesn't work can get so far down the rabbit hole to the point of non-functionality. It does not make sense to continue this argument inside line versus outside line. Like we already know there are pros and cons to both.
Correct.
Right. So what are we really arguing here? Right. We're arguing about preferences, and we're comparing notes without a foundation that that is scientific. Right. So that's really allowed me to be a little bit more diplomatic with how I approach skepticism. Like when I first came into the scene, I'm like, that's bullshit. That doesn't work. And I tried this with my friends. They're like, where? I sounded like such an idiot.
And then the death threats came.
And then the death threat came. And then, you know, people really hated me for expressing skepticism in the way that I did. And I to be honest, I wouldn't have liked me either. You know, I kind of toned that down because the more I explored, it was like, we cannot be definitive about these things. We cannot be dogmatic about these things. Right. So yeah, that's and
no.
The guys from the boudoir are amazing guys. We got James Lin, Rubio, black belt, does jujitsu, does capoeira, does FMA. We have Mark Medeiros, you know, with his JKD, wrestling, jujitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. You know,
you guys got a crew up there.
Yeah, we got Guru Joe Apostol, who is probably one of the most underrated and most knowledgeable Filipino martial artists I've ever met. It's, and you know, Justin Patricio Fernando, who's like a hardcore sparring guy with his training group, and then the people around us, Sean Zerger, you know, Dog Brother, like it's just, we're detached from the outcomes, we focus on the process, we have a lot of fun, and we're curious. We don't feel compelled to provide people with a conclusion. We are satisfied enough to provide a framework or a process that they can try it for themselves.
Yeah, which is more important, and I think it'd be more, and plus more palatable if you're not shoving things down people's throat or saying way is way or what have you. So, but I definitely, I mean, I think what you guys are doing up there is great. So, when you, are there times within your group there, your lab, that you might have some that are working on a functional aspect of an issue and some that are just doing the artsy stuff?
Wait, so what's the question? Like, we do both.
So within your group on there, any given Wednesday night, when let's say you got 8 guys there, does everybody participate in like maybe a raised issue or raised question, or you might have somebody just go up there and they just are doing the arts or just doing what they want? I mean, do you collectively all kind of zero in on it?
No, not really. Sometimes, but sometimes
the guy
be doing boxing, and I'm just like so disinterested in boxing that day. I'm gonna go do Carenza. And
you're gonna go,
jalapeno Cheetos and dance.
No, the reason I ask you is because our group is nowhere as big as yours. There's like 4 of us. So the fact that there's 4 of us and we kind of, whatever somebody brings up, we're all kind of, that's it. You know, we're going to, you know, this is going to be the agenda for the day. We're going to focus on that. You know, I'm sure if we had more, I'm sure that probably would vary as far as who did what, you know?
Yeah. Actually, you know, I want to ask like the people out there, if they like, how big their laboratory group is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm kind of some of these comments.
I think yours, if I had a guess for, again, not class, but laboratory, not a class setting, I think yours is on the bigger end.
You think so?
I do. You got like 8 or 9, 10. Most of I encountered 4, 6.
Yeah.
But again, folks, not talking about a class. I'm talking about that you get together with just specific people outside the classroom setting. I think you're on the bigger end. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Dean. Yeah. I think from the start, we were aware.
See, Alan Chambers 5.
5.
Yeah, like,
Right.
and I quoted 4.
Yeah.
And you guys, I mean, any given Wednesday night, if everybody came, you got like what, 9, 10 potentially, if everybody came.
Yeah, but usually, there's 4, 3 of us there, 5 of us there, 6 of us there. Once in a while, it gets packed.
Like everybody just was able to make it that night, and you got okay.
Yeah, because we also have, like I think we're all dads. I think we're all dads in the group.
Well, that definitely plays it. Yeah,
Yeah, we all have jobs.
yeah, that's always
Um,
good.
but I
Those
think
kids
5
that are always
four,
interfering.
5 is 4, 5 is ideal. The thing about these laboratory groups, they fall apart. I mean, like any.
Do you really see? I've been with these guys. The guys I'm referencing, I've been with them for 20 years. I
What?
can. Oh yeah, we're just not as prolific as the boudoir, but we've been.
Wow. For this deep.
But for 20 years now, I can honestly tell you that I love them. Like it's been 20 years, but I can tell you there have been times when I can't stand them.
Yeah.
I can't, like but 20 years, yeah.
Sometimes a boudoir session would start and we would just talk about life. Like somebody might be going through some crap in their personal lives. And then
we get a little of that too in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, we would just talk about that and we don't feel compelled to move on from that because I think that's really an important element in these laboratories, right?
Yeah, you come in there and you diffuse. You let out what's oh no, I totally agree that absolutely happens with us. Like we'll get there and you'll kind of see the facial grimace and then, hey, what's going on? And of course,
Hey, so I got a question for you, Dean, and I'd like to extend this question to everybody else. Like when it comes to your core group of guys that you explore and do lab work with, do you have like rules? Do you have like a mission statement or something like that? Or do you have like, I'd like to know, and please share what these rules are because I think this is really, really important.
Yeah, no, definitely. So
Like,
again,
what's a rule in your group? Like, what's a rule in your?
okay, so with the core 4 of us, obviously there's others that can come in and out, over time too. I mean, we're talking, obviously 2 decades here with the guys I'm referencing. So the core thing is that you come in there and it's not necessarily written, but you are to treat everybody with respect. You are not to go extremely hard on anybody new. Somebody new coming in, one of the senior guys doesn't go there and just goes tease off on them. We don't say leave ego at the door because I think it's healthy to have ego. So while we address the ego, we don't necessarily say leave your ego at the door because I think there's a healthy ego that you should have.
Yeah.
Meaning like if you're like I'm on the quiet side. So in back 20 years ago, then when I got more confident, my ego was healthy ego was starting to come out. And I was being more vocal on like my observations and what I thought would work and wouldn't work. On the flip side, obviously, you don't want anybody coming in that's just terrible ego. So that's what we do. But because there's 4 of us, if it was bigger, maybe we would have more of a framework or rules. But
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at some answers.
Justin says always be an a-hole.
Always.
So we at the Northwest Corner, our group, we do not. Unfortunately, we don't have that rule.
Yeah, communication.
And also, Brian Canada says don't be. So we have conflicting on the a-holes. We have one says be one and one says don't.
Justin
so maybe
Fernando is just he loves a-holes for different reasons. So okay, I
want to touch on something with you though.
Yeah.
And then you can flip back on me.
Sure.
What's your opinion on like that whole ego thing? Like people say, that common phrase, leave ego at the door, leave it at the door. And I get it, what they're saying, and I do agree with that. But on the healthy ego, what do you think?
Yeah. I think it's incredible. I think it's super important. Yeah. I think I think humility is important, but it's easy to fake humility. It's it's apparent when somebody fakes humility. So I think ego is healthy ego and ego management is super, super duper important.
I think so too, because you might not advocate for yourself because you're too focused on being humble and quiet and like, oh, I don't want to, ruffle and all that. And I don't
Yeah.
think you're doing yourself any favors as far as your other facets of life.
No. And this actually leads into what I wanted to ask, right? Is like, let's talk about some key components into developing a lab group. So I wrote down 4, and then maybe if as I go through them, you can give me your thoughts and the people.
Sure. What's your 4?
Yeah. So I think there needs to be equality in status or cyclical leadership. It cannot a lab cannot exist under the authoritarian rule of one leader.
Oh, absolutely not. Nothing's going to get done.
It makes it very hard to question that leader, doesn't it?
I just don't think, I think there's just nothing's going to get done in a positive manner, or the fact that everybody being and giving their input and all that, problem solving, getting different lenses. I think that's going to be null and void,
I think so. So you agree that there needs to be some kind of like equality in status or like a cyclical leadership. Like maybe one day I'm going to go lead the group. The next day somebody is going to lead the group. I think that's
what we do. Again, your circumstances are going to be different because you have more folks given that if they all came than that one given Wednesday night. With respects to the ones, the 4 of us, let's say if somebody comes in with a problem with knife or they saw a video, they refer to me because of my background. My other 3 guys are MMA guys, BJJ guys. I'm the only eclectic freak. So the other 3, but now if they came in, hey, I saw this grappling. So whoever kind of brings the question in will kind of get it going,
That's one of my other points is there has to be diversity of expertise. There has to be diversity of opinion.
Totally. You can't have all FMAers together. You can't have all BJJ together at 100%. And that's what makes us click so well, because they want that route. I went the other way. And then when we all merged, it was like, wow, this is going to be good. You know what I mean?
Well, look, Alan Chambers kind of made a really concise point here. He trust, communication, equality, diversity of thought, and intent.
No, you can't have.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
That pretty much sums it up in one sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, there can be equality in everyone's voice, but first among equals will emerge. That's Brian. Yeah, Jason Ward. Our rule in Barry is to push each other to develop and find better questions. See that? If I'm going to springboard off Jason's idea, we have to support one another. Like we have to invest in.
Everybody should bring out the best version of everyone inclusive in that group. They should be raising everybody up.
Yeah. It's so important. Like totally
agree.
Every boudoir member, like I'm invested in their successes. And
no, I see that the few times I watch your guys' videos, I get that feeling with all you guys,
Yeah. But at the same time, everyone has different intentions, right? Like somebody may not want to be like a public figure making tutorial videos, and that's fine. Like I can be invested in their success in other ways.
See, I'm obviously the public figure of my group. They're not really. They're not really on. They're on social media, nowhere to the extent I am because of the channel, etc., and all that.
Right. Okay. So we have equality in status. We have support for one another. We have diversity. I think another important thing, Dean, is detachment from outcomes from these experimentations. You have to be
detachment from emotional detachment, like not getting emotional. 100% emotional, not getting glued on something because it was handed to you by or something you've been doing for so long. Now it doesn't work. Yeah, definitely an emotional attachment, which I bring up all the time in the group. These subjectivity, emotional attachment, this stuff.
Yeah,
and, a lot of times I bring it up in FMA discussion. Yeah, agreed.
The last thing I have, which is I think the more difficult thing for some people, is that your lab has to present exposure and visibility to outside opinions.
Yes, that's one. And again, because it's just me, that's one area within that we could do a lot better, to be honest. If they had more social media presence, they were into that, they're kind of reserved. I think we would improve in that area with respect to the guys I'm speaking of. So it's really just me, but definitely as a whole, we could do that better. Yeah.
I think why that's important is like it prevents the group from becoming an echo chamber. You know,
Which
when
is why you don't hear anything about Northwest Corner.
I
Like,
mean,
even though we've been doing it for 20 years and we use knife as the instrument for everything, and we do, we
yeah,
examine, investigate, but yeah, we've been
it's
low profile.
I don't think you should feel like, pressure for doing that. Again, I'm just sharing my
Yeah, yeah.
ideas,
But
and
no, I think
every
we're
group is different, right? Like maybe you don't
doing
want to
some
share this
good.
stuff out there. I mean, and people have ethical lines that are different from one another. Maybe they come up with something. Okay, here's something that we do at the boudoir that we
Okay.
don't really share. Okay, this
What's
is
that?
what
What's that?
is we develop countermeasures for the tactics that good guys use. So because we have access to law enforcement, military, special and reg force units, we have access to so much information
Yeah.
that we develop countermeasures for what like the good guys we know are
For
active.
what the good guys are doing. I got you.
Yeah, and we do that. We don't share it. We don't share it, right? And so there's some things that you want to keep just for you. And again, going back to the idea that everybody has these ethical and moral like lines that they won't cross. And I think
Mm.
that's cool. Like there's a lot of, like Mark would come in and be like, "Hey, we can't film this. We can't do anything about this, but this is like murdery stuff." But we don't do it like to like be badasses or like
Yeah.
because it's an important part of the process, right? We have to we have to play both sides of the cat and mouse game. We have to,
Mm.
because if we're constantly operating under the lens of the good guy, then we disallow ourselves from a whole side of exploration, and we're always going to be playing catch up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're not looking into, and not to, I don't want to, in other words, a system that gets a lot of controversy, Piper.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you are a student of Piper and all that, you actually see, because Piper's so tactic based. There's no drills. It's just freaking tactics. So you actually get accustomed, or by virtue of seeing this stuff, being a student, actually how the bad guys work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there's an absolute value to that, what you're mentioning.
Yeah. And it's fun, man. It's fun. Like, we so I travel to SHOT Show, and some cop shows me like a new holster with a different way of retaining, right?
Yeah.
Like different levels of retention. Like how would we get that gun from a level 3 holster, right? That's not something that we aim to use, and
Yeah,
it's
right, sure.
almost like I don't want to like really feel dirty talking about it, right? Because I don't want us to get that image,
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna. I
Okay,
think it's safe to say you guys got such a good,
yeah, and plus,
reputation.
yeah, and people trust us with information, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And we that element we take seriously, and that's why you won't necessarily like you won't see that from us, like how
Yeah,
does
because
level 3
you're getting gun information. Yeah, like you're getting, you know what I mean?
right?
Like I'm not like I'm not getting that. When I mentioned Piper, obviously, we're talking about, edge weapon. You're getting on a whole different playing field. You're getting like,
Yeah, I
you know,
mean, but I'm sure other people do it. I'm
yeah,
sure other people do it. And the purpose again is just to adhere to some kind of like process where we don't exclude and we don't create blind sides for ourselves in terms
mm.
of what we study.
I think, but here's the thing though. I think you have to think like the bad guy. I do, even though that, initially to the common or the normal people might sound kind of twisted, but I think you have to accept that. I think you need to kind of think about that, because I mean, how else were you gonna be
Yeah.
prepared for everything if I think you need to
Right.
think how they work, but what makes them tick. They're
Yeah,
not.
and I mean, I think these things, principally speaking, right? Principally speaking, there's no difference between a good guy mentality and a bad guy mentality as far as the need to figure things out, the
Yeah,
need to understand the condition, the circumstance, the environment, and to give yourself that slight tactical advantage.
I totally agree. Like if you're
Both
not
sides
thinking
do
like
that,
them,
right?
how are
Both
you
sides.
gonna defend against them if you're not thinking like them? Like what they would do, when they would do it, why they would do it, why is that setting, why would they do it in that setting? Where would they do it? You know what I mean? Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it could sound darker than it really is, but really, it's just don't have blind sides, and especially if you want to be explorative, which by the way
Mhm.
isn't always a good thing, right? Like specialists are scary, where they don't focus on groundwork, they don't focus on striking, they just specialize in this. That's perfectly cool. We intake information from specialists.
Yeah.
That's the nature of being an
I mean,
explorer,
right.
right?
You go to that highest level of what their discipline, what they're doing. Yeah.
What is this Nazca Hostum? You know what that means?
No, I don't. Gregory, would you mind explaining?
Instead of oi oi oi. That's come wait. Should I have just typed the response to Aussie Aussie Aussie? Hey, Raymond Floro's in the
He
house.
asked about your uncle and, of course, my teacher, GM Pogi. I said he was away teaching a women's self-defense camp.
Yeah, he's pressure testing them. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Can I read this comment from Alan Chambers? I thanks. 100%. Science is never 100%, and if we can isolate specific patterns and scenarios, test them under increasing levels and of
I like
stress
that.
and combine findings, meta-analysis, we can get close. Yeah. Paulo has said the best we can do is come up with likelihood of success or statistically significant results
Mm,
over a wide breadth of possibilities.
some good comments, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man, smarty pants, man.
this has been good.
Um, but art's important.
So okay, so I think we handled this science lab. I think incredibly well.
I think so. I hope it helps.
I know it will. Okay, art versus functionality. So I'm kind of looking at this two different lenses. Okay,
Okay.
so for somebody like me, and I'm going to give a specific example here.
Yeah.
When it comes to knife training with me, emptying against knife, I cannot look at the art. I don't look at the art. I don't embrace the art. I just do what comes out through 20 years of finding out what works at the best, you
Mhm.
know, situation without knowing for 100%. But I can't embrace the art. However, so I'm not. That's my mentality, just based using that example, and because I'm with the other three that I mentioned before, they're
Yeah.
kind of don't do the art either. So I don't really. I don't do the
So
art
no
because
art when it comes to knife defense for you. I'm just gonna close this door for a second, Dean.
yeah,
Sorry. So no art when it comes to knife defense for you.
no, in my opinion, no.
Yeah. Why?
I want to refine that what's coming. So what's coming out the best for me, I put my time in refining that. Like I don't like what's working. So I don't want that to get clouded. I don't want to get murky. I just stay in that lane and refine and refine. I think because it took me 20 years to finally get some sense of like what works. Not, but nowhere saying at 100%. That's crazy. But so I focus on refinement in that area. Now, with a spotted and dagger from KI, is there an art aspect to it? Sure. So that maybe would be the other side of the coin, I guess, if I had without thinking of fully.
I think you do art, right? And separate from knife defense, right?
That's what I'm thinking about right now.
You don't
Um,
know? You don't know if you do art? Come on, of course you do art, Dean. Of course you do art.
I guess, yeah, I guess with the one I just mentioned, I don't consider myself, I get, I guess I would, well, first of all, how we define the art? Just because it's Filipino martial arts. So by virtue of that, I'm doing the art.
Kind, uh, I think. Oh, can you guys hear that dog barking? Come here,
Oh,
buddy.
okay.
Um,
We're very tolerable on here with animals. So
that's good. I'm not. Just kidding. Um, I think. Okay, I think a lot of people like to compartmentalize when they do art and when they do functional stuff, right?
and I probably fall guilty to
Right.
that.
I think
I think I know you.
by virtue of who you are as a human being,
Hmm.
you can detach the practice, but it's integrated through you as a human being, as a practitioner, right? And you can try to make this separation. It's kind of impossible. I think but that's kind of getting a postmodernist, super philosophical, hippy dippy, right? Like, okay,
No, I'm guilty though. I mean, I definitely, I definitely have found myself making that like that separation, and I think I did that to myself. And all that. This is something I want to talk to you because I admit it. Maybe I need to relax on that and see a different lens and be
yeah,
more accepting that you can embrace both at the same time. Um, I mean, obviously there's many here that think you can. So I'm guessing I'm the one that needs to maybe kind of
okay.
lighten
Well,
up on that.
let me ask you a series of questions, right? So for we can let's set a foundation, right? Like a core skill for functional knife defense. Let's identify one that we can agree with: grip strength. Correct?
Yeah,
Like grip
sure.
strength is super important for knife defense. You need to like gorilla grips,
Yeah. I mean, right. You need to negate their recovery. So you better have some, yeah, whether
right?
you're jumping down on their arm, you're
Sure.
dropping your weight, whatever it may be, but grip
Right.
strength has got to be there. Sure.
So if you were to focus on developing your grip strength, which I believe to be one of the most important skills for knife
Agreed.
defense, because all of the 2-on-1s and all of the grabs, you need to fortify
Yeah,
those concepts by having good grip, right? Correct?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then my question is, are there artful practices that strengthen or can strengthen grip strength?
I make an intent to do specific things at the gym. I guess I don't know if that falls under that umbrella.
Okay.
Um,
When you grab a stick and you hit a tire and you're free flowing, does that work your grip strength?
yeah, I think that's safe. I think that's fair. Sure.
Right. So, in
Yeah.
that specific way, we can, I mean, the thread might be very thin, but it's a connecting thread nonetheless between art and function.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
Does that make sense? Um, when I do carenza and I focus on footwork and agility, am I maintaining the kind am I maintaining footwork and agility? Yes, I am. Is footwork and agility important when it comes to knife defense? Yes, right? Absolutely it is.
Yeah,
Okay. Is focus important? Right? All of these things that are integrated in both artful practice and functional practice, even though we can appease our sensibilities and say, hey man, when it comes to this, I'm only focusing on practical, practical, practical. But I think the truth is that we can't go hard all the time, right? We can't, like when you're working on your 2-on-1 and you reduce the intensity, what are you really working?
I don't reduce the intensity.
How long can you do that for?
Good question, and I definitely have got my right shoulder is significantly banged up. I have tendonitis beyond where it flares
Right.
up. It sucks, but the guys I'm with, they're grapplers, they're clinch guys. So
Sure. Hey,
you
look,
know,
you take knife defense very, very seriously. It's clear to us, right? And knife defense is one element of your overall self-defense matrix, right?
yeah.
Okay. What do you do to your ability to defend yourself when you've injured yourself in training?
I usually will avoid. It depends on how much it flared up. If it's really bad, I just avoid. If it's not, I just suck it up and
Yeah.
get in there.
But the point is your ability to defend yourself in a real world event is diminished if you're injured in training.
100%.
And so you can't train hard consistently. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. You know what it is when the guys are going in there and they're going, and it's just before you know it, you're
yeah,
you're in it, and then you forget about that you're sore, that you're injured, and then when you're done, you're like, well, that was incredibly stupid to
yeah,
do, and
yeah. Or like, you're grappling and a finger gets jammed, and now
yeah,
your grip strength, which we agreed was critical to knife defense, is
yeah.
actually compromised in a real world environment. So you have to integrate a softening or a staggering of intensity.
So here, okay, I'm enjoying what you're suggesting and saying. So give me an example in regards to what I do. Like,
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Sorry,
yeah.
Dean. Sorry, guys. Somebody's at the
Oh,
door.
no worries.
Hey, chill out, dude.
We accept barking animals, barking dogs. Best spoiled, don't train themselves. That's true too. Thai boxers are reducing. Yeah, no, there's definitely something to be said for that. Absolutely.
Man, sorry, Dean. Sorry,
Oh,
guys.
no worries. Oh my gosh.
Your life,
Seriously, don't
man.
worry about it.
I'm
Hey, you know what?
yeah,
I'm gonna can you entertain? I
sure. You
gotta hit it quick.
okay.
So I was just here.
I can address some of these commentary
Oh,
and
I know. That's why. Oh, yeah, you're absolutely. But this is, the best in the world don't train like if you look at Thai fighters, they're like going much lighter. I mean, yeah,
100%.
this is something I gotta jump on. I just got
100%. So still Art Dean Brian. Yeah, it's I think I'll be real for a second here. I think there's a marketing compulsion to want to present ourselves as just like hyper focused on reality and preparing ourselves for these conditions, and then we're constantly bombarded with imagery of people training really really hard and they've got the camo, and they say all the buzzwords, and I think that's a very strong compulsion for people to kind of want to mimic that, because when we see those people succeeding, we want a piece of that. But the reality is, and I don't know how much you guys know about my work in like the tactical community over the last decade. Like I've literally traveled the world and have had sit down, like stuff that doesn't show up in videos, and elite special forces from all around the world, man, they train appropriate to like deployment times, what they know about an upcoming mission, whether it's downtime. But maintenance training is super duper important. And especially during like a pre-deployment phase, it's rare for these like special force guys to go hardcore with their empty hand combatives training. First of all, empty hand combatives training is typically really low down the totem pole, right? Because if you've got a long platform, you got your sidearm, and then you've got your empty hands, there's a hierarchy there. And shit's really hit the fan if you're having to throw down in a non-permissive environment with your hands, So that is so far down their priority. It's really, really important, but it's further down their priority. But what we see is like these guys are going like hardcore, right? Like they're banging each other. They got the headgear. They're in a forest. They're wailing at each other. Those are probably like reservists, you know what I mean? Or they're on some sort of like downtime with no foreseeable like deployment date for anything, and they're just dudes going hard. That's not how they actually train. And I wish we can change that about the Filipino martial arts, because FMA is so cool, but it's badass, man. Like FMA is badass. What can I say, right? Like it's badass. It's badass. But the reality is there's so much value into slow, methodical, and even artful training. And on the other side of that too is like, I don't want to be thinking about getting stabbed or not getting stabbed consistently. Like that's a dark space to
You know,
occupy your brain. Hey, I don't want to do that. Screw that. Forget that. And I think the people who present themselves as that are faking it. They're faking it. There's no way. It's unsustainable to constantly be thinking about stabby this and that. They're playing a
no,
game.
that
Wearing black.
you're invoking.
They have 8 knives on them. They're
That's
college.
just unhealthy.
No
Yeah,
way.
that's just a multitude of unhealthiness in so
Mhm.
many ways.
Right. But
Yeah.
Dean, I'm trying to prove a point, right? But I'm not trying to like impose my philosophies on anybody.
Oh no,
Because
and I don't feel that way. Yeah.
I think there is value to like delineating artful practice with function. I think it's just important to understand that and to acknowledge that there are threads that connect these two worlds, and you can totally focus on just a specific input, or stimulus, and just
Mm.
refine. Super duper important. Um, I just like to think that everything I do leads to one practice, one practice that involves art, that it involves function.
On the ball. No, no, no. How about so obviously, we're kind of speaking on that, and this is coming from the perspective of someone who trains. Like, can you train, both and all that? And we're kind of saying your general consensus is that yes, you can. Your priorities might shift depending on what's going on,
Right.
injury, what have you, or what is the module at hand that you're doing that and such. What about from a teaching perspective? If I'm a teacher and all that, okay, and I'm known for teaching, functionality,
Yeah.
whatever all that. So, what's your feeling on that? Far as the art versus functionality, can the teacher invoke both into a student?
Yeah. Short answer. Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's a back door to artful practice, and it's called attribute training, attribute development, where it doesn't
Yeah.
need to be artful, but I mean, you're isolating the development of a particular skill that doesn't
Mhm.
look like the application, but develops attributes that lend itself to favorable outcomes for that application, right? I mean, let's just look, guys, just for a second here. Let's look at skipping rope. Skipping rope. Okay. You can there's a functional iteration where you can add a flair, right?
Yeah.
Does that diminish the value of skipping as an activity that develops combat attributes? Or does it enhance it by adding that artistic flair? You let go of one side, you flip it around, you do doubles, right? So that's just one way that if you're uncomfortable as an instructor to use the term art, there's people do it all the time. And I see art in what these people do. I see art in Instructor Zero and Todd Fossey and Daniel Shaw, Rob Pink, all of these guys who may even be resistant to call themselves martial artists. I see art.
Todd Fossey, you're throwing him in there too? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. I tell him all the time
Yeah.
that he's a martial artist, and
Yeah.
he declines. He denies. He doesn't, and what he says is he doesn't feel he deserves the title. Like he holds the term martial artist in really high regard, right? Instructor Zero, like like any professional that I've ever met,
Mm.
I can say they're artists in their own right.
And
Now,
then,
sometimes they find that insulting because they assume that when I call them an artist, it diminishes the functionality of what they do. And maybe
I could see that. Okay.
it's against the brand that they're trying to build, but that's what I see. I see art in what they
That's a great point. The branding, like you don't want art or the presumption that you're the art, because then if you're selling, functional, tactical, defense, Yeah, I could get that. I mean, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I can understand that.
And that's cool, but maybe art is a lens, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like maybe I see you working with your laboratory and you guys are going hard and I'm seeing art and you guys are like,
Yeah,
yo,
right. I
like,
guess right. And that's going to vary too. I mean, from the audience, they right what they're seeing. I mean, so you can't discredit what they're seeing in their opinion. If they're seeing art, what are you going to tell them they're wrong? I mean, yeah, I mean, so. But you brought up something I want to piggyback on and back up a bit. What you mentioned, and I'm a huge fan is attribute development.
mhm,
So we this has come up before and I don't have a dog in this fight, but when you say attribute development, it's more not all the time, but kind of get in the same lens or same lane rather as functionality. When you put drill, it's kind of in the art. You know what I mean? And I'm again, I don't. I'm not saying that. I mean, it's just basically feedback from different episodes where that's come up before. That. So when you bring up attribute development,
mhm,
when you say that, I automatically sometimes like, oh, okay, yeah, you're improving my speed, my accuracy, my power, my non-telegraphic, my perception and
mhm.
reaction, my position repositioning, threat, locating the threat, and all that. Is that kind of what you mean, or am I off base here?
I think in communicating, first of all, I think people get attribute develop. I think people get the communication of attribute development wrong a lot of the times, right? Like,
Okay.
let's look at timing, for example, right? Timing as a combat attribute, right? Um, when you do a flow drill where the cadence and the rhythm is predictable to the point where you can close your eyes,
Hmm.
you're not developing timing. You need your eyes for timing, right?
100% agree there.
Exactly. And timing is relative to what you're timing to, right?
Yep.
And that thing that you're timing to doesn't have a predictable cadence. So when you have a drill that is predictable, it has a cadence, you have to be mindful about like to what degree are you developing timing, right? So
Hmm.
that's timing is a huge one, right?
Not
Coordination.
even here. Like, yeah, like you look at Hoobit Lubid, could you do that with your eyes closed and you're in sync with somebody like that? And my
Right.
answer is yes. Yeah.
Then it's not, you're not, how are you developing timing
Yeah, you're not.
with
Yeah.
your eyes closed? You're not.
No.
If you can do a drill with your eyes closed, you can be certain that um, you are not developing your timing. Maybe maybe not for grappling arts, right? Maybe not for grappling arts because there is timing when you feel something and then pop, 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 that sequence of
Mhm.
events that set you up for that submission. Yeah, I mean that could be timing. That could be timing as well. And then Raymond Floro in his when you did an
Movement.
interview with Ray Floro and Romeo Macapagal, and they were talking about measure, right? And they're like, measure is
Yeah.
useless without timing. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, right. You can measure correctly, but if you don't take advantage of the measure through timing,
yeah. And I'm
yeah.
like I've known that, right? And I love that they said it, but it still gets largely ignored. Like people don't really understand, even though it's quite simple, that your ability to measure is useless if you cannot time it,
I
right?
told no, I told you. You'd be
So
surprised how many people in KI. Ooh, I'm not gonna say that.
right.
I,
And then so let's talk about this. How do we actually develop timing? What is timing? I think timing is the mental process, right? It's our
yeah,
ability.
I think it's about perception and reaction. I think that's all up here, and you obviously you can improve upon that and train
Yeah,
it like you would like training a muscle.
exactly. You can't develop timing as far as FMA or not non connected arts with your eyes closed. It's just it's You can't do it.
No.
And the
Here's the
value of
thing.
your development of timing diminishes once you have a predictable cadence and a rhythm, which means a
Yeah,
lot of flow drills don't develop your timing at all.
you're totally right, because here's the thing, like with your eyes open, like what you're mentioning, which is absolutely correct. Okay, all right, I'm going to time him, I'm going to measure him, but you need your eyes because maybe you're going to see that slight telegraph or the cues he gives before he fires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my ability. Nobody's doing that with their eyes closed.
Yeah.
You know?
And telegraphy is a really, really interesting concept to me, right? Because like, Raymond Floro is big on not being non-telegraphic. I think there's a nuance
with the clientele in Australia. Yeah.
There's a nuance to that, right? Because stillness is a form of telegraphy, right? Like imagine a coiled snake. The strike may be non-telegraphic, but the fact that he's coiled in that position telegraphs his intention to me. So there's
the threat. He's telling the threat. You're seeing it right. I got you.
So there's nuance to that as well, and I think
non-tel is huge, man.
Yeah, but being non-telegraphic in motion is an altogether different beast than being non-telegraphic from a static position.
From a still point, yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of like demonstrations when it comes to being non-telegraphic, I mean, it has to be from a static position because you're trying to teach a concept to someone.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so you want to set your students up to really understand the concept. But I think true non-telegraphy doesn't originate from stillness. It originates from motion. And that motion is engaño. That motion is that deceptive. Like engaño is deception, right?
Fake, yeah, correct.
It could be a snaking motion where you hide your load position instead of being here. Maybe you're ready to strike there. So, I mean, and this is beautiful, man. That's art for me.
No, yeah, I mean, again, when you look at, and I see the validity of what you're saying, when you look at that, like you're seeing an art form. I mean, if you're non-telegraphic and you perfected that, I mean, how could you not look at that as an art, a perfected art? I absolutely. So in other words, here's the thing. Perhaps art is not even, I don't know, maybe art is overused then. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like a lot of things, it suffers from like a public relations marketing. People have developed like a bad taste in their mouth for certain words, even the term tactical now.
I was going to say tactical. There you go.
What is a better word to describe tactical than
I teach tactical knife.
Okay. So, yeah, man.
So I know I digressed there a bit. We were before we got that because you brought up something interesting about attribute, which we went into, and we went into it well, I believe. But getting back to instructors, so what if instructors got a mixed bag of students. Some of them are going in there, they want to be the next Eric Naus, or they want to be whatever, and you got some people that just, man, they're just getting off the couch and they're getting something to do. But yeah, it's just as important as a person that wants to maybe overcome their fears in fighting or what have you. So how's it, from a functional / art, how's that get tackled?
Like how does a specific instructor kind of
like a mixed bag, and he's known for functionality, but then he's got people. I mean, does he turn them away potentially? The people that want the art, hey, I'm not your guy. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, where's the line divided?
That's the $1 million question, bro.
Because, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna tell you a true story I did one time, and I'm not, and I'm gonna say this, and I don't know if I did the right thing. I really don't. It's something I think about and reflect on often. I had a student call me. No, I shouldn't say student. I had a person calling me, and they made a few queries, and basically, based on their questions, they were kind of like wanted drills on that. And I just flat told them, say, hey, look, I got to be honest with you. I don't think you're a guy. I did reference some other people and all that, but I always kind of wrestled with that. Like,
wait, you denied them because they were.
I didn't deny them.
You didn't feel like you could provide.
Yeah, I felt like what they were looking for, I wasn't the guy that, to give them that, or the best person to give that. So I referenced them to somebody else. in that, because their queries were centered around, drill oriented questions and stuff like that. And I've always wrestled with that. Like, I'm not so sure if that was the best thing to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I really can't answer that because I think you did the right thing. I think you did the right thing for sure,
All
based on
right,
your
so
understanding of inquiry.
Ray's kind of saying what I did. So yeah, well, that's nice to hear, because I've always wrestled with that. Like, did I turn away somebody that perhaps I could have helped or given them something, or was I honest, integrity to me, honesty to them, and doing the right thing.
Right. Well, you probably have a job that isn't just martial arts, and I think that's what allowed you to give that
Yeah,
answer.
so like, just sucking them up just by virtue to get
Sure.
another student. You know what I mean? Like,
And I'm not even hating on like if martial arts instruction was my full-time job, I don't know if I could decline that, you know?
if it was your full, yeah,
Yeah. Why would I deny myself business, right? So like I'm not even hating on it. I just think there's a better way to communicate these things.
yeah,
And I think the long road, like I can't expect every instructor to have like integrity and be completely honest, right? And have good moral character. I can't expect that. But I think collectively, and it's not my job to do this, I think it's everybody's collective responsibility is to educate students as much as possible. I don't want to be an instructor. I want to set a good example for what a student could be.
mm.
And even then, I think at times I'm like I'm a terrible student because I think a lot of instructors expect dedication, and I can never dedicate myself to any one thing. It's just not my reality, Dean. Like
Yeah, but you're being honest to them and integrity to you.
yeah. But I think educating students over time is going to like yield positive outcomes for instructors, and it's going to make instructors' lives very, very easy. I think,
Good point. Students are educating themselves.
yeah,
What they should be, what you should do anyway. If you're paying for something, why wouldn't you take the time to educate what you're paying for?
right. Well, it's I mean it's difficult, because people look at martial arts instructors for answers, like give me the answer.
No, they wait. I admit this. I think they put way too much value in,
Yeah.
and this is nothing against it. I mean, because I'd be putting myself down in this, but I think they put way too much value in there without doing their due diligence. I agree.
Yeah, and I think there's enough truth to these lies that people can get away with it, like doing this formulaic pattern flow drill is going to develop blah blah blah, which is good for self-defense. Like there's really enough truth in that for people to be able to get away with it. I just don't think that and it almost doesn't make sense to discuss the nuance in marketing. Like you're posting a video, it almost doesn't make sense from a business standpoint to express the nuance of what this drill actually is. Better to just go knife defense. I understand that too. Like
As opposed to like going on some elaborate,
yeah,
title and discussion and this, that, and yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, jeez. But you,
it's rough.
you touched upon something I think is interesting though, like how structures can hide, like I forget your exact wording, but something to the effect where they're basically not being honest with the student by
Yeah.
perpetuating the drill for self-defense. And I think there's a lot of that going on in FMA, to be honest with you.
Well, I think some instructors just don't know or can't communicate.
I think that I think that's fair, but I think some of them do know, and they say it anyhow. This will, knowing that what's over there and what they've seen work, but the blinders
Yeah.
on. But yet, I see it every day in FMA discussion. I see it every day.
Hey, I took a few months off FMA discussion.
Yeah, I understand. I probably should be taking a few months off.
Yeah, you need to take a break, man. I'm glad you have, Tom and your other guys to do these interviews.
Yeah.
Don't push too hard, man. Don't push too hard. Like, don't feel
No, that's one of my biggest things everybody tells me. Like, well, pushing too hard. I mean, here, then
yeah.
pushing too hard. I mean, it's not my best. What I got going for me. Not
Yeah.
my best care.
But hey, like FMA discussions, it's great. So I revisited it and I looked at some of the conversations and I was just like, oh my God. A lot of it is the same stuff.
It is. I know.
But
it's just clean. It's just clean. It's a clean
better.
place.
It's better. And so here's what I noticed, right?
Yeah.
About FMA discussion. Like there's a guy from Italy, Andrea Rollo.
Correct. Yes.
And he's working on his PhD, and he's doing all this research in Filipino martial arts, and he posted these documents that was just like so incredibly important for our understanding of a history of Filipino martial arts, and it got like 11 likes.
Isn't it incredible? But somebody posts some like a joke. Isn't that the most?
Somebody complains about somebody, and it's like boom, 200 comments.
It's so frustrating. Like take it from me from frustrating. Like I see, and you're absolutely right about Rollo. I invited him to come on, but much to your point, he's going to finish his PhD and then hopefully come on. But you're so right. You'll see these incredible historic posts or so fascinating and enrichment of information. And you're right, but some it's frustrating. Yeah.
Or like I saw this dude from like I think it's like La Cas 14 or something, but he was doing like this like a really flowery fancy demo. Right. Yeah. But what I saw from that was the crowd. Like the crowd was huge. And so for me, like I take a moment and I'm like, I'm glad he's spreading Filipino martial arts. I'm glad that the audience was packed and they were enthralled by his demonstration. But what's going to garner the most discussion is some guy going like, that disarm will never work. And he did like 18.
And everybody.
Yeah. He did 18 disarms. The one where like, I don't think that'll work. That's the one. That's the one that people are going to gravitate to. And like, that's what's going to.
It's frustrating. I can't tell you. But the one thing I'm happy about, am I happy about the posts that come in? Not really. A lot of them are not education really, or in the terms of, educating folks. Historical content, and all that. So I'm overall, I'm not really happy what's coming in there. But what I am happy with is that people do go in there and they're not just verbally, like we pretty much negated that. You know what I mean? So I have to take, I guess, some of the good with the bad.
No, Dean, I think you and your admins have done an incredible job. And here's what's amazing. Here's what's amazing to me. Yeah. People are using your platform to promote themselves.
Oh, 100%. I'm being used every day.
Yeah. But that's a good thing. You've created.
I created it.
You created like a town square, right? Yeah. And I think that's the part about FMA discussion that I don't think you and your admins get enough credit for, is that people will go to FMA discussion and push their polymer trainers and their aluminum trainers and their seminars, their events.
Channel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so the fact that they're doing that, I think you should be proud of that. And I think they should express their gratitude for that. And this is what I'd like to see. When people are going to promote themselves, just express gratitude. Hey, thank you to FMA discussion for allowing me to share this. Instead of just, it's too lazy to share the poster.
It's the id. There's so many of these people are stuck in the id. Me. You see, you know what it is? I've had this talk with Brian and a few others, and it's like I finally concluded like there's going to be a small percentage that are very appreciative of what we do. Very appreciative. I mean, you've heard him say it via message, verbally, in person, in the group. Yeah. But the majority is going to take you for granted. Yeah. And it's just, I hate to say it, but it's just the way it is. You know what I mean? But I agree with you, but
if I can make a suggestion, and this is something that I observed from another group that I'm involved with, is that they delegate a specific day. This is the day. Saturday, this is when you can self-promote. Any other day, not allowed. So the people.
That's a great idea.
And so
Tuesday, you can promote your YouTube channel. Thursday, you can promote your style.
Just have one day where you can promote whatever the heck you want. And so what's going to happen over time is like people are going to see Saturdays as the bulletin board day where they can look for trainers, they can look for new YouTube channels and seminars.
Man.
So just like one day, which is this is the day you're allowed to self-promote shamelessly. And
I
over
do like
time, you're going to
that.
develop an end user behavior when people know, and they can search. They can search Saturdays,
Right.
an FMA discussion if they're looking for trainers, whatever, and then it'll clean up. It'll clean it up a little bit, and then yeah. Anyway, just a suggestion.
No, I do like that. Like pick a day, like where
Yeah,
promote
yeah. Push.
promote your weapons,
Yeah,
promote your
promote
style, promote
yourself
your shit.
Wednesday, or I don't know, something cool like that, like
You know.
sell out Saturdays or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sell out Saturdays. No, but you know what I mean.
But I tell you though, it's been pretty I think the last time I've had to remove somebody has been a couple months, no verbal warrant. Like so, the goal, I think I've achieved the goal of self-regulation. Like like I'm not having to go in there, I'm not having to look at every single thing. Like it's been pretty people have been pretty good, and just the regulation, it's kind of just over time has happened, and so that's nice. I do like that, because you know what it is, when you have to go in there and you're putting out fires, man, you're taking time away from everything else you're doing. It's not fun. You know what I mean?
And sometimes it's hard to like detach yourself from just like how it affects you. And this is why I kind of got off the forum for a couple of months, because I was like, I really reflected on myself, and like, because sometimes I'm contrarian, sometimes I'm opinionated, right? Sometimes I can be like incredibly supportive, and it's like I got really mindful about how like people like perceive me, and I didn't want to be, somebody who was like some sort of like a regulator, a gatekeeper, or authority, and I was just like, I was being that, and I kind of didn't like that. So I just stopped completely. And I thought,
well, we're glad you're back. I mean, I understand when you take, you were nice enough to message me and let me know. And I figured, okay, he's just taking a break. I didn't take offense to it. He needs, I should be probably taking a break.
You should take a break. You should take a break. But you know what I didn't do?
What's that?
I didn't make my exit post. I'm so tired of FMA discussion, and it used to be this, and now it's that. I'm out. And I'm like, I hate those people, man.
Or when they post like, okay, I'm taking a break from social media. I can't take anymore, and I'll be back. It's
just
like,
go. Just go. It's
okay.
Like, okay, guys, I'm leaving the party. Everybody aware? I'm leaving the party. I don't
just like me. It's like you're leaving a grocery store. You're telling everybody that you're okay. Hey guys, I did my stuff here. I'm good. I'm leaving. I don't get it. I totally agree. Yeah, that's just I'm like, all right, you're taking a break, and we'll see you in a week.
But I think, man, I think FMA you guys did a good thing, and it's a lot of it is you, but the community is cool, man. Like there's some people.
Yeah, I mean, look at the latest thing I'm kicking off now is, and I hope it, and I hope this gets traction. I really hope it works, is because one of the things we were thinking about is like the cost inflation going through the roof and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can we get people exposed to other different arts at a very significant cheaper rate? And one of the things I came up with was like joint seminars online. So to kick it off, I'm going to start doing some with some, but then what I'm hoping will go is that others will just get together and do it. And of course, like I said, and then we'll promote the crap out of it and all that. So I'm doing one with Jack Latour. This is kicking it off. Hopefully that goes well. I got one coming with Tim Hartman, a couple others, but the goal is Tom Payne's getting involved, that eventually guys will just take it upon themselves to do something, and we'll support them, promote it, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. If you so I don't watch FMA discussion beyond like the live part. I love the live element, right? But I don't
watch the one they're down when they get on the YouTube channel. Except you know what I do watch? I have to be honest. I do often go back to GM Bogey.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying,
yeah. So I think having a seminar series on the FMA discussion YouTube channel is going to be a good thing.
I hope so, but I tell you, leave it to this group. I hate to say this, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic or that, but this group will disappoint in a none. I mean, at this community,
nothing's going to be perfect, bro.
But I tell you what, if this one with Jack takes off, a few others want, it starts getting traction. Others want to get involved. They want to go with different people. I think that will be fantastic. You know what I mean? I hope it does.
Well, okay, I did some market research, and I asked a lot of jiu-jitsu people how they want to watch jiu-jitsu tutorial videos. And for the most part, they want it short and concise. Some people like the long John Danaher explanation about life and the cosmos and the universe and why this heel hook and blah, blah, blah. But I think for the most part, people want to get to the meat and potatoes of the tutorial video, right? And so seminars, online Zoom sessions are still an hour. So I had this idea, and feel free to run with it if you want, but it's just like short format tutorials. I wanted to get as many Filipino martial arts instructors and get them to do one thing for me: film a 3-minute video of their favorite drill. Okay, like, what's your favorite drill? You show your favorite drill, and then I compose it into this like anthology of all of these Filipino martial arts instructors showing their favorite drill. And I think that, because there's like chapters and breaks, people would watch a 3-hour video of that, but they'll also watch the individual videos. Things like that. Anyway, hey, James is back. Hey, Royce Ramos, man, he wrote this long thing.
Suffering.
Can I read it?
Left, yeah. I appreciate you, good. Yeah, I know, Master Ray. We
love you.
You always have. Yeah. See, like he makes it. Like guys like you, Master Ray. Even though the percentage is on the lower end, far as it, but these, folks like you make it worth it. You know what I mean?
And don't be biased, bro.
People that appreciate, generally what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think a lot of people appreciate what you do. It's just that not everybody like.
Yeah, I know, and I
so many people appreciate you, bro. Like they wouldn't post on FMA discussion otherwise. So you are appreciated. So Justin, Royce Ramos, 2 cents. Timing, in my humble opinion, is a multifaceted aspect. Yes, you need eyes, you need to see, but every aspect of sensation is also needed. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. There's some truth to that, but timing is primarily like the sense that we use timing for is sight. Full stop, right? Like you can say, "Oh, I heard it coming," or whatever else. It's your ability to see something that will. That's like the primary. Yeah, we can talk about brain process, of course, and convolute the conversation, but it's your sense of sight, right? Your perception of this stuff. Yeah,
it's that because
chunking information.
Knowing where, when you tie the timing into the aspect of measure, the whole thing of this, your eyes, is knowing where you need to measure too. You know what I mean? So,
well, like Ray Flora and
like he just said, they go hand in hand. Yeah.
Like,
and Ray
measure
Flora,
without timing is useless. Absolutely.
Ray Flora is not wrong.
But let me read the rest of this for just a second. Combined with distance, positioning, and strategy, sending and perceiving how one moves. Yeah, of course. Now, here's the thing. If you stick with just one drill, there's only so much you can develop from it, even if you create a myriad of variations. That's why I like it.
Which one's this?
Okay, so Royce is saying if you stick with just one drill, there's only so much you can develop from it, even if you create a myriad of variations. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think there in every Filipino martial art, there is a mother drill that you can create so much variation out of, and you ought to be able to execute every technique within that system.
Look at Sabrada. Take 5 count Sabrada. Look what you could do with 5 counts of Brada.
Or the Sabayan drill from Pikiti Tertia. There isn't a
There you
damn
go.
thing in Pikiti Tertia that I shouldn't be able to pull off the known pattern of basic Sabayan. And how you break these drills it's everything, man. It's everything. So I don't want to be too contrarian, because Royce, you do make some like really good points, and they're arguable, which is why I'm arguing them. But I believe every Filipino martial arts system has that one drill that could be identified as the mother drill of that art.
The mother
And it
drill.
can spawn endless variation. Hey, can you do a 5 count sombrado drill on the ground?
Never tried it.
All right. You probably could. Could you incorporate kicks into it?
Yeah, never tried it. But I just know, like, when you look at the way it's taught through an National blend, but look, and then of course, they stick in that pattern and what have you. But if you look at what you can do there, in other words, okay, on the first feed, I'm going to go recta to the hand. When it passes by me, I'm going to refeed him. The next one, I'm going to do it totally different. I mean, there's so many things you can do, to make that like.
Could you do a 5 count sombrado drill with knives?
Sure.
Could you do it with only one person with a knife?
Sure.
Okay. Now, the person who's empty-handed against the knife doing a 5 count sombrado, can he find an entry into a 2-on-1?
Oh my God! Because the most start with number one. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? This is how I view like these drills. This is how I view the Sabayan drill or the Col de Mama drill from PT Tertia, which is why it's the only drill I know in all of PTK. But there's
mentioning that.
Yeah, there's not a thing that I can't integrate into that drill. Not a thing.
Then you can't argue that. I mean, you're going far beyond the drill, which was initially shown to you.
And I speak with Grand Tuhan Leo Gahe, Tuhan Jared Wihongi, Tuhan Apollo Ladra, Tuhan Bobby Ladra, and we discuss Sabayan drill. We discuss Col de Mama at this high level. We're on the same page.
As far as what you can implement with it, and
it is the mother drill of Pikiti Tertia. And I focused almost the entirety of my PTK studies under the umbrella of one drill. I don't know any other drill in PTK, and I consider myself a PTK.
Hey, we got a fun question here. It's totally, but I think it's fun. So, what's your guys' favorite bands or movies? So, what's your favorite bands?
The Beatles.
That's a tough one to argue, man. You can't argue that one.
It's just pound for pound, the Beatles. But man, you know what I love? I love like 80s like ballads. Like I love Peebo Bryson and like.
So you like 80s cheesy
80s love songs for me.
So you and Vico would get along. He loves 80s cheesy.
Man, suddenly. I can sing
like Spandau Ballet, like stuff like that.
Elton John, Tiny Dancer, like it's just trust me. Air Supply, Chicago, America, Don McLean. Like I love American folk music. Like I love Don McLean. I love James Taylor. I love John Denver, Kenny Rogers. Love American folk.
Yeah, I love all that. I like that stuff too. I love for me, it's the late 70s, cold wave, 80s, alternative.
You're like a rocker guy.
Sure. I mean, Bauhaus, Joy Division, Echo and the Bunnymen, the Ramones.
No, man, I'm more like Journey. You know what I mean?
You are Journey.
I could listen to Journey all day long, bro.
Are you serious?
Chicago, like all day long, nonstop.
I would hang myself. If you told me, okay, we're gonna ride in this car and I'm playing 6 hours of Journey, I would. It'd be the airplane movie.
That's because you stopped believing, and don't stop believing. Yeah, man. Okay, like Lionel Richie. Holy. I'm digressing here, but one of the greatest albums, pound for pound, of all time is Madonna's Immaculate collection, and I will fight anybody over that.
What year did that come out? What year?
I don't know. Like I don't know. When was that? But Madonna's Immaculate collection, man. Papa Don't Preach, La Isla Bonita. It's just like boom, like hit
See,
after
I
hit
could.
after hit.
There's some songs on there I would like, but I couldn't. Again, that'd be a hanging moment.
I've never listened to a Rush album, like, or the Who, you know, or like the
Well, see, when it
Ramones.
comes to rock bands, Led Zeppelin to me was just like
Absolutely.
there. Like if you like it's Beatles to you, it would that answer for me in the rock would be Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd,
Yeah,
freaking incredible, man.
The
And
Who. I mean, yeah,
and their
wonderful.
songs are like they tell a story. They're so
It's
elaborate
not
in
like that
song.
though. Here's the thing: you look at back in the this goes for the Beatles as well. You take a Led Zeppelin albums from the 70s. I mean, it just like the craft of the songwriting, the craft of the instrumental, the interplay of the bowl. I mean, or the orchestrative nature. Now you look today, it's just cheap buck, the cheap. Matter of fact, they're not albums anymore, they're downloads.
Well, what I really appreciated is listening to like a Led Zeppelin album or a Pink Floyd album in sequence, uninterrupted. Then
Yeah.
you kind of really get to understand like a little bit of the creative depth. Right?
Incredible.
It's incredible, and
Yeah, it is.
it's so free, right? Like there isn't. This is our style. It's almost like whoa. Now it's just like a clock ticking for like 3 minutes.
It's gone. I hate to say this. I think in the underground, I think you have some really talented bands that just can't get record deals, or they're just not what's people like today. But when you look at like what far as what's construed as rock,
Yeah.
you can't and you compare them. You can't compare them. I mean, it's not even close. You know what I mean? It's just
I think every generation goes through that, and I came to some music today is really incredible. And the thing is, I also like pop music. I love pop music. I'm not so indie. But hey, like, what do you like to listen to when you train?
well, I
What do you
make
guys
mix.
like to listen to when you train?
Yeah, I make mixes of the bands I just mentioned or 80s,
Yeah,
but yeah, that'd be interesting. What do you guys? Oh, his second part of the movie.
I don't have a favorite movie. Oh, actually, no. I have like a period in the early to mid '90s where it was like Pulp Fiction, Lion King, Braveheart, Forrest Gump, and it was just like back to back to back. They just hit us with so many
Have
classics.
you ever seen the classic On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando?
No. Have you seen like the bridge over the River Kwai?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Like
yes.
though I love. You know what I love? Westerns. I
They're
love
like what? Yeah, the spaghetti claims, but watch On the
on
Waterfront,
the
Marlon
waterfront.
Brando.
Yo,
To me, it's
westerns are
probably the
amazing.
best
It's
movie. My
uniquely an
best
American
movie.
genre.
Yeah, my best movie On the Waterfront, Marlon
On the
Brando.
waterfront.
On the Waterfront. It's black and white. Yeah, it's. I mean, to me.
I watched The Breakfast Club for the first time ever.
Are you serious?
That movie was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved
Imagine
it.
85 seeing it in the theaters when I was like
You saw it
85.
in the theaters?
Yeah.
That must have been incredible. And I saw Unforgiven lately for the first time. Clint
I was
Eastwood
like, oh my
movie.
gosh. Like all those 80s movies,
Yeah.
not Animal House. What was the other good oh crap, it's escaping me now. The Caddyshack, some of the other ones. I mean,
Yeah. The Porky's series. James, and think of FMA drills like musical sequences. Some will mix well together, others may not, and some surprisingly will mix despite you not expecting them to. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I know we got off.
And I love the live element of FMA discussion. Like I said, like I mean, who's gonna watch this video after after? But like,
I think they will.
oh man,
I truly believe there is a small percentage of community that, with conflicting time zones, that
yeah,
do. I get, and the reason why I know this, I feel this way. I do get messages that, hey, I just wanted to say I couldn't watch it live, but I did watch it, and that was an incredible episode. So there is that small percentage of community that will go to YouTube and watch it.
yeah. I'm reading a little bit more of Royce's comments here, and he mentioned familiarization and tactile sensation creates like deeper understanding. I think
Tactile.
Familiarization, line familiarization. I've heard line familiarization over and over and over. I just don't believe in it, man. I don't believe in the incessant study of like perfecting angles of attack in a vacuum. It's just not for me, man.
Hey, he's coming on next week. Guess on what?
Sabaya?
Try the formula. He's gonna show some demos and everything.
Royce is gonna do Tri V stuff. Cool. Yeah. I like Tri V because it's oh man. I gotta be careful with my words because it's I understand that how awesome it is, but like Tri V is like PTK for dummies, man. You know, like the For Dummies series, which is what is it's not obviously for dumb people, but it's just like simplified, condensed, and more concise explanation of like more complicated concepts, right? So that's what I mean. Like just if Royce could do Tri V combo 1 2 3, demonstrate Tri V combo 1 2 3, and people actually tried that in a fight, they would understand the brilliance of it. And here's the thing about the Tri V combinations 1, 2, and 3. I've seen it exist in practically every Filipino martial arts system. It's like it's 3 strikes in a triangle shape of some kind, right? It's brilliant. But like to really, really understand it, you have to fail in applying it against good people. You have to try it retreating, advancing, stopping, starting, playing with range.
Definitely have to cover that then.
Whew, man.
Yeah, we figured because I want to get back on that PTK theme, and so I figured you know,
Tri V combinations are
1 2 3.
Yes. Anyway, this has been awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
You guys.
So, but I appreciate you coming on as always. You know,
man.
As always. Obviously, this won't
Pleasure,
be the last.
Dean. I miss you. I miss FMA discussion. Hey, like I stopped doing FMA. Like I
You were too busy.
Well, I mean, truth be told, yeah, metal detecting had a little something to do with it. But man, there was like I felt a void in my life without Filipino martial arts, you know. But I think it's important to understand what leaving FMA like does to you and reflect on it, because I think a lot of people take time off Filipino martial arts.
I did after the Sayak Atiendas. I mean, I took it. I definitely took years off. Yeah, I just thought like this is what FMA is, and I was like,
yeah. I mean, it's really, really important because like we get so fixated sometimes on the negative elements of it, and it's probably worth stepping back and like just deprioritizing and defocusing on the Filipino martial arts just for a period of time, if for nothing else, so that you can understand what it actually gives you, and you miss it, and then you miss the interaction, and yeah. And I think, I want to ask this to people, because I feel like this opinion that I'm about to express could just be me, but I think there was a collective pause in all of FMA worldwide. And maybe that had something to do with COVID, but I think everybody, to one degree or another, at the same time, right? If you believe in like a collective consciousness, then maybe this will make more sense. But I think everybody just took a breath from FMA, just like,
it was at least for a few weeks.
Yeah. Maybe it was just a few days for some people, a few weeks. For me, it was a few months, maybe, but I think there was that. And then there was a lack of innovation and a lack of excitement. And I think people just needed to just take pause. And then now I'm ready, Dean. And I think I love that you just, because I felt it coming on. I'm like, I gotta get back into this. I miss it. I feel a void. And then you message me like the other day, and it's like, hey, get on. You available? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm available. And I think just things happen
That's
for a
so
reason.
funny you bring that up because I did like there was an over what I felt kind of long range sensitivity, like this like over like zealous like this eagerness and all that like yeah and then because you asked like hey is it panels or just me and when I said just you and you were like yeah so I definitely felt that eagerness and over
Yeah.
willingness that you definitely
Well, I believe in this collective consciousness, and I believe in flow, and I think everything happens for a reason. So like I'm really happy that you contacted me, and anyone who was
yeah.
here live, and maybe even the some people will watch this, the
Oh
recorded
yeah
version of
no
this.
I
But
always got there's a small percentage that do go to the channel and watch it.
yeah. Oh, look, Rodolfo Garcia. Oh, interesting. We actually have a pattern called triangle. Yeah, like the triangle striking pattern. And there's so many ways to do it, right? And there's so many. So a triangle has like these 3 points, and each one is a transition point where you can retrace your step or go into another trajectory. But like this 3-strike triangle pattern advancing, if you can develop like just like this mental like lion tiger focus and understand the split seconds in between and see it in slow motion, these 3 striking attacks, these advancing attacks that exist in all Filipino martial arts, that is sacred. And I don't know. Again, sometimes I can be a little too hippie, but when I execute, uh, um, a tri-V combination, and that third hit lands as it's supposed to, because
Mm.
the first two are typically bridge.
Bridging
Yeah,
techniques
bridging
or
techniques.
types,
The
right?
third one is a termination technique. I mean, mind you, ideally you hit all 3. That rarely happens, but there's something really cosmic in
Mm.
play, especially when you watch it and you see the nuance and you see your opponent kind of break down under like that pressure.
Have you okay?
It's just beautiful. Or if they defend it, it's even more beautiful. Like
Mm.
if they evade
But
or
they
they,
defend all 3. Yeah.
yeah, it's even more beautiful. Like I love it when I get, man, I'm getting all emotional, but like I get equal satisfaction from executing a successful sequence against my opponent, and it's the same like when I watch it when they defend something
Mhm.
that I've thrown everything into. I'm just like I just see like it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, that's just appreciation, like overall appreciation for yeah. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks,
All
dude.
right, I'm gonna go.
Let's go.
Speaking of dogs, I'm gonna go let
Yeah.
the try the 3 the pack.
Do it, brother. Thank you again for this
Oh my
opportunity.
God, no, this won't be the last time. I still want to do that 2-on-1 night. Burden is just he's starting to feel better. Then I know he had a couple of people over from that are staying with him in training, and
Yeah.
so I haven't forgot about that one. I still would greatly like to do that one with you as well.
Burton's a great cat. Like I'm just
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watch his stuff and I'm like, it's good.
Like you don't
Yeah.
every day, man. He's pumping it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I ever meet Burton, I'm gonna like give him a big hug and just be like express my gratitude for his
Yeah,
dedication
yeah,
and promotion and ambassadorship of Filipino martial arts. Man,
yeah.
such
Hopefully
an asset.
he's gonna be traveling. Matter of fact, I gave him a suggestion what to do as far as a camp, and it looks like he's gonna. So it could be. I don't want to give too much away, but Las Vegas maybe.
That would be dope. Yeah, I'll come.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually living with him and with Burton for a while there, and then Marcelo just got his own place. But there was a period where Marcelo was actually staying at Burton's house. Yeah, real rough. Huh?
Hey, I mean, I got Burton on Facebook as well, but I mean, you guys have a special relationship. I recently finished, if I can plug something, with Mark Medeiros and 2 jiu-jitsu black belts, Brazilian and Japanese jiu-jitsu. We created, we call it FU stick fighting. It's just basically just like brutal cranks, locks, and submissions with a stick.
Yeah.
I'd love to give you and Burton a copy, just for feedback.
Oh,
Because
I would. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm honored, and I know he would feel the same way.
yeah, and we composed it like how jujitsu people like to watch videos. They're freaking quick. I think the longest video is like 3 minutes, and it's
He
18
likes
chapters.
that too. He has appreciation for that too.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
like,
So
here's
yeah.
what you do, because like he already has the base of knowledge to understand how to set it up,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh. I
and
mean,
the
yeah.
struggles that could come from even attempting these things. Right. I think sometimes in FMA we present stick locks with absolute certainty. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's like you need to work on.
Yeah. Those are guys who have not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
like this.
nothing but easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are
No,
like,
he would love that. Yeah. If you. I
I
mean,
think it's a
yeah. Please do.
solid set of like stick submissions and locks from commonly occurring positions in like full contact stick fighting. If you go to the
Oh,
ground,
yeah.
and if you're allowed to grapple with a stick.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
love to send you and Burton a copy for some feedback.
So, all right. Well, as always, it was a pleasure. I appreciate you coming on and doing this. And just again, it won't be the last time. And welcome back to MMA discussion.
Welcome back to FMA to me. Woohoo! I love FMA. Thank you guys. Dean, thank you again for everything that you do. Thank you for everybody who chimed in. I'm going to just take a moment after this and reply to all of that. Thanks, Dean.
All right. You
Peace.
take care. All right, folks, that concludes 310. 311. Actually, this weekend, double header. We got one Saturday and one Sunday. And that's going to be Robert Pastoral, a gentleman who's in France, Savat, FMA, of course. And then Sunday is going to be actually the first time we're going to be Steve Grover's coming on. And we're in the first episode where it's going to be mostly demos. And all that. Matter of fact, the majority, I mean, he'll give some explanation what he's doing, and then, for feedback or questions. But since this is going to be geared towards people that we've already done bios on, so when these folks come back on, pure demos. So Steve's going to be basically demoing his cognitive night program Sunday. So really good stuff. I'm a huge fan of him. And again, that's kicking off Sunday. So that's not going to be the first. From now on, we're going to bring folks back that we've had on, and we're going to be looking for them just to showcase their material. So if that's of interest to you and you've already been on, please reach out to me, because that's something we want to start incorporating. The interviews won't be as lengthy because you've already been on. So you're just going to focus on showing your content. So again, let us know, and we'll go from there. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to FMA Discussion, where all our monies go to charity. All right, folks, thank you for chiming in, and we'll see you this weekend.